Hi, this is Robert Kiyosaki, and you're listening to Capital Hacking. This is the most important thing you can listen to today.
Hello, this is Josh McAllen from Renault Winery Resort, and we have a very important announcement from Matt Sorensen about Learn and Grow, August 24th. Take it away, Matt.
I'm Matt Sorensen from Directed IRA. I'm excited to be the keynote speaker at the Learn and Grow event for Accountable Equity on August 23rd and 24th. Got to book your tickets and get registered. I'm excited to be there and to meet you in person.
Here's the one.
I have a dream.
With great power comes great responsibility.
I can do this all day.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
They may take our life, but they'll never take our freedom.
Cinderella's story out of nowhere.
It's in the hole. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Capital Hacking begins in 3, 2, 1.
Yes, welcome back to the big show. How about that? We accented a different part, right, John? This is your buddy Josh McAllen and John Edwin, the world's best podcast host. How are you doing?
Thank you, bro. Thank you. I think that's a little too much credit, but I appreciate it. I'll take anything I can. Today we got to interview Jeff Rutt, and I'll tell you, it's a really, really interesting story. He started out with, a very heartfelt, transparent story of his childhood and some very hard things that he dealt with. And then he went from, he bought a farm at 20 years old, and he went from, would you say, Josh, 300 cows to building 500
homes, luxury homes a year. So from milking 300 cows a year to building 500 luxury homes a year today. I love that. That's my little fun story.
And then he goes on and talks about how sometimes in charities, helping can be hurting. And he talks about toxic charity. And I'll tell you, you guys want to hear about all the things that Hope International is up to.
Yeah. By the way, first time ever hearing that expression, toxic charity. So stay tuned and pay attention. I think it'll be surprising if you hadn't heard it yet. It was for me. But how about this? A gentleman, it was like we had to ask him, because he's so humble, because he's really not about him. We had to ask him more about Hope International. And the story is, I say we buried the lead. It's a $1.7 billion behemoth in the world of supporting human dignity through microloans. That's amazing. And here's a guy who just wanted to do the next right thing. And the next right thing led him to be an instrumental part of the world of this movement that can actually build dignity and independence. So that's enough of the spoiler alerts. I think you want to dig in here and meet a true giving soul that will impact all of our lives. We love this guy. Enjoy.
Let's go.
Today is the day. There's times in the career of trying to do podcasts and adding value to the world where real blessings happen. And so, John, I've been telling you about this guy, Jeff Rutt, and I know you've been pumped to get him on the big show. So we have him here today.
Yeah. Josh was even telling me earlier. He's like, I can't wait to the show with Jeff. You're going to love him because both Josh and I have a heart for missions work and charities. And so really, really excited to have you on, Jeff. Can you give us a little background of who you are?
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me onto the show. Born and raised on a dairy farm here in southern Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Dad taught me how to work hard and the value of discipline and getting up early, 4 o'clock to milk the cows, which I appreciated. Years later, I didn't really appreciate it that much right then. Had a very dysfunctional teenage years. My mom picked up my 3 siblings at school one day when I was 13 and left me a note to call her if I wanted to get picked up. So I ended up deciding to stay with my dad on the dairy farm. Spent my teenage years broken, but leaning into my faith. And at 20, literally bought the farm, 200-acre farm. Our payments were $4,366 a month. My wife and I worked very hard on those years in the dairy farm. And then it turned out after 10 years, it turns out 300 cows are very needy. So we were looking for something with less hours and lower risk. So we thought maybe real estate and home building would be a good choice. So decided to start really small, started building 12 homes a year. I was selling real estate at the time, and God has blessed that business. We were the first builder in the country to win the America's Best Builder Award 3 times. Been building homes since 1992. Started with literally zero cash. We had a credit line and a lot of big dreams and goals. Currently build about 500 homes a year here in Pennsylvania and Maryland, and we have a division in Charlotte, North Carolina.
So is it fair to say that a dropped, what do you call it? Clickbait could be from 300 cows to 500 homes a year?
There you go.
No, I mean, that's good. So Jeff, the name of the business that builds beautiful homes is?
Keystone Custom Homes.
And with Keystone Custom Homes, when we dig into this business, and I wouldn't mind, John, anything you want to do about the lessons of life. I'm sure you have great questions on that. But Keystone Custom Homes is an independent, privately held building company. So you do you entitle the land and go all the way to selling it to Jenny and Mr. Smith? Or no?
So we did for the first several years. So from 92 through about 2006, we found opportunities where they were, troubled assets through banks or just developing land. We did that. And then in 07, 08, when the Great Recession hit, we realized there was a lot of opportunities to buy finished home sites. So for about 7 years, I call it the 7 years of famine from 07 to 14. We all know the building industry was in a huge dip.
Yep.
We bought literally hundreds of communities. And I mean, some of the communities were four leftover lots, and some were 54, some were 104. We worked with a lot of banks, a lot of developers, and a lot of builders. Now, since 2014, it's been a mix. So we do both. We buy finished home sites and we develop. Average sale price is about $825. Our ASP is our lane is kind of in the middle between that small custom builder that builds, you bring that newspaper clipping and it's, $1,000 a square foot, maybe not quite that much, but it's expensive per square foot, but you get it true custom. And then the big public builders that are building shelter, low cost per square foot, not, zero customization, a lot of spec homes. So we're in the middle. We do all 100% pre-sold, and we have a semi-custom track that we've developed over the last, especially 25 years. It's all online, web-based system called Key Choices. You go online and build your house, and you just pick everything that you want. We have tens of thousands of options that are pre-priced, pre-planned. We have pictures in there, engineered drawings, and then you just check what you want, and we build it for you.
Yeah, go ahead, John. I do have some questions about that. I'd love to.
Yeah, I mean, to do that on your computer and customize it. I mean, I know like Toll Brothers or NV Homes or Lenore, like all those guys are, you go in, you get presented a few options, but you're talking about customizing like everything online.
So it's we have pre-planned options. So we're not going to, have a circular purple striped sliding board coming into your family room. And if somebody wants one of those, it's likely going to be priced at some amount that doesn't make sense. But there's a lot of things that people like shifting a little bit or creating something new. What we've been able to, I think, do well is over the years, if we see someone asking for the same thing over and over, we'll develop that into a clickable option, and we'll get better at bringing the cost down and bringing the quality up because we build it over and over again. But yeah, it's mostly choosing from, and tens of thousands of options sounds like a lot, but when you start combining, different kitchens and different colors and different hardware and different plans, it adds up pretty quickly, and we're able to have that organized in such a way that, you go through the process and point and click what you want. So the beauty of it is, what we found is a lot of builders will say, and I'm not going to name the public builders that really lean into this, but some of the public builders especially will say, we include everything. Well, a lot of times their everything is not everything that I would have chosen in my house. And what we've noticed is there are no there's no options that we have that 100% of the people choose. So unless you're choosing 100%, you're paying for some option somewhere. As a matter of fact, the highest option that we have right now is only chosen about 65% of the time. So the most chosen option. And you could say, well, why don't you include that? Well, here's the reason. 35% of the time, you're going to be paying for something that you didn't choose. So if somebody really wants to focus on the kitchen and they want to go deep and like bring the kitchen to life, have the beautiful, and they don't care about a finished basement or the master bathroom or the garage or whatever it is. Somebody else might be really into the basement. Like that's where we're going to entertain and we want to trick out every possible thing. So that's kind of our lane. And we found some, it's not for everyone, but it's worked well for us, especially up market.
So Jeff, this listening audience is a mix between people that want to learn about how to level up their thought process, and be exposed to great people like you. And then there's a lot of us that do projects and land development. So we're going to geek out for a minute, if you don't mind. For those of us who are on the show or listening, who don't understand what it takes to build a neighborhood, could you just kind of break it into like 4 parts or 3 parts and say, here's how this works and the timeline and the struggle or the positive for each?
We've never had a struggle. I don't know what you're talking about, Josh.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're the one. You're the one.
So let's see, 4 parts. So, finding the opportunity, I would say, is one, and there's a variety of ways to do that. We try to make, contact with the brokers and the realtors and the engineers and the professionals in the municipalities that are seeing plans for the first time. The banks that might have access to knowing about a property, or it could just be us seeing a sign or calling someone we heard is thinking about buying there. It could be any way of that first till we have a property that we say, okay, this is a property we want to go after. There's 3 basic buckets that we look at. The first bucket would be finished lots. So a developer went through and already did everything. They did the entitlement, they did the approvals, and they have all the improvements in place. The second bucket would be they're entitled, they're approved, but there's no improvement. So and that's kind of the niche that we found. That's kind of the middle bucket is where we found a lot of opportunity because most of the publics want to buy finished lots, and some of the smaller builders don't have the financial wherewithal to go in and get put the bonds in place and borrow the $10 million to go put the streets in. So that's the middle bucket. And then the third bucket would be just buying raw land and taking it all the way through entitlement. So that process going through, so let's just say we're buying raw land. We're going through, if it's zoned correctly, you could go one step more further and try to rezone it, but I would not recommend it. At least not in our part of the world, in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. It's not that common to get a property rezoned unless there's some other reason the municipality wants it to be rezoned. But let's assume that it's zoned and you're going through a by right process to get that approved. You'll meet with your engineer, lay out a plan. It's going to probably still take some variances some waivers, some exceptions, but you lay out a plan that for the most part meets the zoning. And then you walk through that process, and there's multiple levels of, local, you have, DEP, you have to get your NPDS permit. You're going through making sure that you have utilities, water, sewer, gas, all of your electric, cable, all of your utilities at the site. If you don't have public water and sewer, then you're testing to see if you have well water capability or well water capability, and that you have perks and probes that you can do an on-site.
Have you done that? You've done a residential neighborhood using all septic per house?
Yes. Yeah.
And when you do that, do you have to do a well per house? I guess you can't have a shared water treatment.
Well, there's a couple forks in the road there. So we've done septic systems where there's public water, and we've also done septic systems, where there's not public sewer, where you have well water. So, or you could have the opposite. You could have public sewer and well water. So
Okay.
there's all different combinations. And I think the one variable that you're talking about, if there's no public sewer and you don't want to go to a public or a septic system, you can do like a drip irrigation system, which is usually a lengthy approval through DEP.
Right.
And from a well standpoint, there have been a few cases where there's been a water system. We just had a community recently where the city was not able to supply the pressure needed for a community. It was about 400 homes, and that happened about like we were maybe 30 homes into a 400 home community, and they sent us a letter and said, yeah, that will serve letter that we sent you, we need to retract that. We don't have pressure. So we took us about 5 years, but we were able to develop a well and a 300,000 gallon holding tank and a pressure system to supply the neighborhood. But that was pretty complicated.
Well, thank you for going into the weeds on that one. I mean, what I think we all took away from that is you're the real deal. Okay. This is not just glamour. Okay. From the dirt to the sticks to the custom, semi-custom technology. I mean, that's not normal, right, Jeff? I mean, we think about all the developers we know. Some of them like to do the entitlement work and then sell it to the big publics. Where do you beat the big publics? Like, why does your market and your strategy work in areas where it might not work for a public, or are you head to head with them, or are you kind of following a different sweet spot?
Yeah, I think we move, we're a little bit more nimble than, like, for example, if we're talking to a landowner, and there's several pieces of this. I'll first talk about the landowner. If we're talking to someone who wants to sell their land, normally if the public is buying it, they have so much money. That's not the problem. But they have so many layers. It's got to go to like 6 different layers of approval to finally get to that person or somewhere, the Oz behind the black curtain that is approving it. And it takes a lot of time. Where here at this level, it's a couple of us here in this office right here in Lancaster are making that decision. On the customer side, it comes back to that ability to move your light switch or make the master slightly larger or do something a little bit creative and more personalized with the kitchen. Most of your publics are going to say, no, we're not doing that.
Jeff, so you were talking about the farm that you were doing before you started the home building. I'm curious to know, because it sounded to me, what I caught was you probably got married young and your wife and you were working very hard together in the farm, and maybe you both are in business together. I know Josh's wife, Melanie, and my wife, Christine, we all are business partners together. And how does that dynamic work in your marriage? And when did you get married?
Yeah, we got married. We were 22 when we got married. So that was about 2 years. I had actually bought the farm when I was 20. So I bought the farm while we were dating, actually. And, not the most common, conventional thing to be talking about, in your dates. I'm getting ready to buy a 200-acre farm. What do you think? I mean, my wife, Sue, we've been married. It'll be 44 years in October. Wonderful woman. It's just her laugh and her energy and just the brightness that she brings to the conversation is incredible. And just it's been an adventure and an amazing almost 44 years. She was also born and raised on a dairy farm, so it was like the two of us were very used to this way of life, and it really is a way of life. We worked hard together. I still remember being out one morning. It was 20 below zero, and we knew that nothing was going to start. The engines and the motors and everything was going to be frozen solid, and we couldn't the only thing that we could get to start was a John Deere A 2-cylinder tractor, and we were pulling the 2510, which is a newer tractor, up this hill, and it was just, she was running that tractor, and I was trying to pop the clutch on the one behind, and the tractor was just sitting there spinning, and she turned around and was jumping up and down on the axle, with the casing of the axle, and just kind of just laughing. It was just too insane and too miserable to even like grasp. So all you could do was laugh.
Right.
And we eventually did get that tractor started. But yeah,
Wow.
lots of stories.
Well, she sounds like one heck of a great woman, because I don't think as Christine is absolutely amazing. I don't think she's going to be out in negative 20-degree weather with me.
Yeah.
So let's pivot a little bit and talk about Hope International. Can we do that, Josh?
I'd love it. And suffice it to say, Keystone Builders, not only did it win the awards, it does sizable amount of revenue, and it employs a lot of people. So your fight was worth it, and you're serving so many people. Thank you, buddy.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, Hope International. So the quick story in Hope International, I was asked to lead a trip and to serve some families in Ukraine by a church right here in Paradise, Pennsylvania. What better place to have a church, right?
What year, though, by the way? How long ago was that?
Mid-90s, and we did that for 5 years in a row. We were inadvertently creating a cycle that Robert Lupton talks in his book, Toxic Charity, that cycle of dependency that starts with that first gift of container of food and medical supplies that we sent. There was appreciation. Then that second container, there was anticipation, then expectation, then entitlement, then dependency. And Pastor Petrenko from Zaporozhye, Ukraine, sat us down and said, "Your helping is hurting."
Your helping is hurting. By the way, Jeff, you taught me this a couple weeks ago. I had never heard this toxic charity concept before. Yeah. John, have you heard about this?
Yes. Yeah. It's happened to a lot of third world countries where there's too much help and then they actually need it versus pulling themselves up.
Yeah. Yeah, and inadvertently we were creating this toxic charities, and he sat us down and said, "Your helping is hurting." That one comment shifted our whole approach, and we started lending really small loans, as low as $20, into the lives of the families we were serving to help them not only financially, but spiritually, personally, socially, and become pillars in their own communities. We were encouraged early on by hearing about Natasha in Ukraine, not far from where we were sending the containers. Got a small loan to start a clothing business in a market. She found out about a need in the same market for selling Portland cement. So she started a small business selling cement out closer to the street than anyone else was. About 18 months in to her first loan, she went to her loan officer and said, "I won't be needing any more loans because I'm not poor anymore." We heard about the 2 Muslim women in Rwanda who were not really interested in the word and the worship part of our group. Our welcome, worship, word, work, and wrap up, the 5 W's. But they were super excited about the sneaker businesses that were growing because of their small loans. But they would sit outside during the word and the worship portion. But eventually they got loved in. First by the loan officer who was a believer, and then other believers in the group. And by the end of that loan cycle, those 2 Muslim women came to Christ.
Wow.
And then Anastasia in Burundi, who was not able to support her 2 little girls at the time to go to school, to pay for their school fees, leveraged a $20 loan into a wedding business where she leases out 200 chairs, 200 place settings, and 200 baskets, and 3 wedding dresses, small, medium, and large.
That's right.
And she is thriving. And it was just encouraging for us to see that growth and that development. And it reminded me of my wife Sue's prayer when we decided to get off the dairy farm. We didn't know what God wanted for us, and we didn't really feel like we were hearing answers to our prayers. But when we started looking around and realized what he was doing through the work at Keystone and through the work at Hope. And this was 15 years later. We said, this is the answer to God's prayer. We didn't realize it at the time, but now, I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of guy that wants answers in 15 minutes, not 15 years. But that was, it took us a few years to realize what God was doing. But in 2004, we hired Peter Greer. Got his graduate degree from Harvard University. He was on his way to a job at the World Bank. Somehow we convinced him that Lancaster, Pennsylvania was the place to be. And he has brilliantly led Hope to the point today. He's written 16 books. Hope has now raised about $280 million, but we've loaned out about $1.7 billion in tiny loans in 27 countries around the world.
Can you fathom that, John? So Jeff buried the lead, did he not? Like, here we are, like, meandering through awesome stories until he gets to the point, just $1.7 billion has impacted the world. And what's even
that? $1.7 billion.
It's incredible.
$20 loans. How many people does that equate to? I mean, that is a wild thought.
Yeah. It's a lot of people now. That our average loan size is probably closer to $300, and we have loans up to, in general, our loans we range from $20 to $2,000, depending on the context that you're in. But millions of people. We also have a savings service that we work with. Just an incredible way to reach deeper into poverty, and we use the same 5W process, but it's the 5 welcome, worship, word, work, and wrap up, and people save together their own dollars and then loan from their group. There's no outside capital injected, and then they grow spiritually, they pray for each other, and then are able to get a loan from the group.
So the five W's: welcome, word, worship, work, and wrap up.
Yes.
So I think I understand many of those except for wrap up. What is wrap up?
That's just closing in prayer. Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
So could you flesh this out a little more? So the loans are being originated. There's some type of loan process. Is that person right there in that tribe or in that community, in that poverty situation?
Normally it would be someone in that region. So the loan officer, there would be like a group leader, somebody in the group that's kind of the leader, but they would not be the approval like the loan officer. But all of our loan officers are indigenous to the regions that we work in. We say our loan officers have the head of a banker, the heart of a pastor, and the soul of a missionary. Okay,
you got to do that one more time. You're so beautiful. Our loan officers have to do what?
They have the head of a banker. So some of these folks have worked for a commercial bank.
Okay.
They have a finance degree, and they're extremely intelligent. But they really want to stay in their regions of the world and help their people. So head of a banker, heart of a pastor, and the soul of a missionary. So it's a combination, and it's a real balance, Josh, because sometimes, as you know, you go into a village and the kids, somebody's little boy is sick.
Right.
Somebody's aunt needs a hospital, and you just, how do you balance handing over, hey, just take some cash, how do you balance that with the long road to dignity and sustainability?
Yeah, I don't know how you would do it. I almost am afraid to ask. Does that loan officer have to say the 2 letters NO?
Yes.
To someone in desperate situation? I'm not talking about someone who wants to start a sneaker business. That's easy to say no.
Right. Now,
what if somebody is dying?
Yeah, so they do have what they call a social fund in every group. So they're up to a certain limit. Both the loan programs and the savings programs have like a part of every dollar that they're saving goes into a social fund. So if they find to a limit, some kind of an emergency, they can help someone out, and they do that often. They're extremely passionate and so giving, so generous.
Do you see what I meant, John, when I told you that this was a pillar of the world? This gentleman, you're clearly, I will say this, you've embraced something that I've never seen before, Jeff. There's only one other person that I've seen something like what you do. you're so unassuming. I know you love hearing all these compliments. That's all you look for is compliments, right, Jeff? No, I'm just kidding. You don't like compliments. You work hard every day. You build a company that probably serves and loves on your staff. So your staff are probably well taken care of. So that's already a good work for God. And then I imagine they get involved in this work with you and your family. Tell us about the impact on your family, all of this.
Yeah, it's been fun. So I don't know if you're able to share a link on the show, but I want to send you a picture of my daughter Caroline.
Yeah, please send it to me, and if there's a way, I'll pull it right up in the show. On top of this, while he's talking about this, we may not get to all of these things. So while I'll let Jeff do his technology fight, which all of us have, he is also the host or co-host of the Generous Business Owner podcast, which, a plug for that, John. I just listened to one this morning with the boys about how to keep your children from feeling entitled, and this woman and Jeff's team interviewed this powerful, famous author. What a challenge that is. And you know what she said that I do not know her name. I'm sure you can correct me, Jeff.
Kristen Welch. Yeah.
Kristen Welch said this one line. Feel free to pull it up. I'm stalling here. In the olden days, this is called stand-up comedy stalling. But here's what she said that will change all of us just listening now. And then we're going to all download the podcast. She said, she was a believer. She was trying to live a virtuous life, but she always was comparing herself to the next door neighbor who had a better car, and the kids seemed to be doing better at sports and better at school. And she fought that. We all fight that temptation. But then she started doing missionary work, and she said, I never thought about it. We always compare ourselves to those who have more. Why is it not natural for us to say, if it's somehow embedded in our hearts that we have to compare ourselves, why aren't we often choosing to compare to someone who has so much less and learning from that difference instead of always feeling greedy or whatever you call it, gluttonous and wanting more? What a powerful, I have to admit, she's right. We always compare up. We seem to never compare down. Right, John?
Hi, this is Melanie McAllen. Josh and I are just so grateful for the many investors who have already joined us at Accountable Equity. Accountable Equity is so much more than a capital group. It's really a community of accredited investors that want to learn and grow together. I just want to personally invite you, if you want to find out more about this type of investment and see if it's right for you and your family, please visit us at accountableequity.com.
Hey, it's Hal Elrod, author of The Miracle Morning, and you're listening to Capital Hacking. Enjoy.
It seems to, for me, it reminds me of the Benjamin Hardy book, Living in the Gap or the Gain, which is a fantastic book to read if you're listening and you haven't. It's a great book. Also, Jeff, when you were talking about your charity, Hope International, and how it helps others really become empowered and build self-esteem. It's funny. I just looked on, that Facebook memories button that's there. 11 years ago, I was in East Africa with a group called Humanity Share, and they're really big on instant relief, clean water, funding women in education, because if you educate the woman, the whole village gets helped, and then self-sustaining. And we have communities that we've helped through Humanity Share that is totally self-sustaining, and they're now helping other communities around them in East Africa. So kudos, man. Empowering people there's something really to be said for that.
Yeah, we'll do it separately because I know what you're going to show. Everything that you showed when I got to meet you in person is awesome and beautiful. And the families that are starting these businesses and taking the $100 loan or $20 loan or $1,000 loan, it is they must have a sense of needing to pay it back, because you would think that it's only $20. Why even waste your time paying it back? Why is it that you think they pay it back?
Yeah, there's a couple things. Number one, there's a group guarantee. So if there's 8 people in the group and I take a loan out and for some reason I'm not able to pay it back or don't make my payment on time, the other 7 people in the group are chipping in and each paying 1/8 of that payment. Second thing is, I think there's definitely a mentality that there's not a credit card coming in the mail next week like we are getting, and they know that this is their one shot. And then the third thing is 80% of our loan recipients are women, and they're women in areas of the world that it's really tough. And their number one thing that's important to them is taking care of their children. So there's a lot of things working towards the motivation. The last thing I would say is we don't give loans to someone who doesn't have the ability to pay it back. We feel like that's like the one step worse than toxic charity is a toxic loan, where you give somebody a loan that doesn't have the ability to pay it back. So we're trying to set them up for success, from the beginning.
So almost like a business plan review process.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. So you say this doesn't seem logical, and you might not have the track record or energy to do it.
Yeah.
Look, I threw you off, Jeff, by asking you to show these pictures because I know how beautiful they are. But I want to pivot and talk about how we can all get involved. And then I want to share with you why John and I really needed to get you on the call here and what we want to do as a powerful group. But talk to us about what it looks like. How can we help you today who's listening now?
Yeah. Well, we would love for you to get involved in 3 different ways. Number one, please pray for the clients of Hope International around the world that are working in some really tough places. We have 17,000 savings group members in Haiti. And
Wow.
We just found out last week that one of the pastors from an affiliate church that we work with there and our group facilitator in that church were killed through gang violence. So please pray for their families, pray for the other 17,000 members that are still in Haiti and working hard in these small groups that are still thriving and still praying together, saving together, worshiping together, and surviving together.
Right.
But in the 27 countries, I don't have the time to list all the needs and all the praises of the incredible things that are happening on the front line. The second thing I would say is if you have the opportunity to go on a trip, please take it. Go see some of the work. Our family was just in the picture that you guys will be able to pull up and share in the show notes, at least, is a picture of my granddaughter who's walking alongside of Joyce. She said, "This is my new friend, Joyce." She's also 3. And she didn't see the different color skin, the different dress, the different anything. She saw the thing that was in common. And I think too many times we see the differences. Our kids see it clearly, the things that are in common. And we have so many things in common. I think it's great, especially to get kids to see what most of the world lives like.
Yes.
It's not what America is not the way that most of the world lives. And the sooner you can make that happen with your kids, your grandkids, it completely takes the wind out of their not fair speech. And it really draws them in, I think, to what's important and draws a link and makes the world so much smaller and just gives them an incredible Christian worldview. And then the third thing is, if you're able and interested, we'd love to have you get involved financially. We feel like it's an amazing investment. We call ourselves the Uncharity because it keeps growing. That $280 million grew to $1.7 billion. It's not coming back to the donor, but it's going to help more and more and more families.
Yeah, it's like compounding your impact of each dollar.
That's right.
Wow. Amazing.
And then, John, the next thing, Jeff, so not GoBundance, even though I love GoBundance, our program at Accountable Equity, which John and I care deeply about, we have this big community of wonderful investors, and we look for organizations to get behind as a team. And maybe we do golf outings, maybe we do events where we bring you a speaker from your community in to talk about hope right to them, because we gather together in these learn and grow experiences for these good families that want to, they need to invest their money, but they want to grow as people. And this is one way they want to grow, is find programs. This one blows my mind, I have to admit. We've been part of a program to help families afford adoption, and that was well received. So, we all know how hard it would be to adopt financially if you don't have enormous resources. So we help children get homes into homes. Here, I think this would ring every bell for the community we've built, John.
Yeah.
It's so intelligible, and it's based on human dignity. I mean, that's the part You have to believe that there's such a thing as toxic charity. And then if you think there's toxic charity, then what's the other end of the extreme is charity that leads to dignity. And that's what this is.
Amazing. Jeff, where can our listeners follow up, connect with you with any questions, support, whatever?
Yeah. Well, go to hopeinternational.org if you want to learn more about Hope International. And we'd love to share more. We have an event coming up here at Kennett Square that Josh can tell you more about. I had the date up here a minute ago, but it's a place to come and learn more about Hope. But we have several events here in the region. And then, if you want to learn more about Keystone Custom Homes, go to KeystoneCustomHome.com.
Jeff, we're going to support you in every way we possibly can. We love what you're doing, and we're grateful that you helped make it easy for us to come along board. And I guess the only logistic question I forgot to ask is these trips, are they scheduled and you just join a preset trip, or are you saying just go visit anytime you want?
Yeah, no, we have preset trips. We take a lot of trips to Dominican Republic, which are easy trips. It's like going to Miami. Actually, it's more like going to Miami than going to Miami is. But we have many trips during the year. If you go to our trips tab on our website, again, hopeinternational.org. If you want to organize a special trip, if you want to take your family, we do have some family trips. But if you say, you know what, I'd like to go to Zimbabwe and see Victoria Falls and then see Zambia, see the program there. And I have this whole group of folks that I'd like to go with. Check it out, look us up and reach out to us, and we'd be glad to try to make that work.
And I guess I have to follow up on this question. Are the children able to come on these trips, and how young, and what's the protocol there?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I probably push all the limits on that, even though I'm founder of Hope International. They do have age limits. I personally think they're flexible.
I love that. Well, it's because you're an entrepreneur. If life wasn't flexible, entrepreneurs would just stay at home and not do anything.
Yeah. So, but for me, I think the younger the better. I think I'm not sure what it says on our website, but maybe 12. But personally, I think if you're taking 6-year-olds, they're absorbing a lot more than you think they are. And if you can, at a young age, have them start realizing, we have a lot to be thankful for. And it's not, this isn't the way everybody lives in the world. And if they start leaning into that early, I think it truly impacts whether they end up doing anything internationally or just supporting someone internationally, or it just impacts their Christian worldview and it impacts the way they treat their neighbors here across the street.
That's right.
Awesome. Jeff, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate everything today. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on, and looking forward to staying connected with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Damn straight. We just got we got to the end of another great show, and everyone listening right now, you're the family and friends. Thanks for staying till the end.
That was so fun. And hey, hit the like, hit subscribe. We're here to serve you guys. That's why we're doing this show. Josh is not paying me. I'm doing this off of my quote unquote sweat equity because we want to make a difference in your life. And then that ripple effect will continue to touch the world.
Hey, amen, brother. Please check us out on capitalhacking.com, all the social media threads. And yes, I know you've probably already sent this episode to one of your best friends. Thank you. We love you. Just go right into your iPhone, hit the plus symbol. We'll talk to you later. See you next week.
Share.